Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Ancient Photon, and thank you for watching my first YouTube video. I am an amateur astrophotographer and I mainly photograph from my backyard. I first started night sky photography with taking Milky Way shots with my Canon camera and stock lens, and then a 2-hour image of M31 with my Rokinon 135mm lens drew me into the world of deep space astrophotography. And over the last 2 years, my interest has grown toward capturing galaxies. These tiny jewels of different shapes have captivated me the most. Now I image from a Bortle 4 5-ish Midwestern skies here in the US and have been imaging with Celestron Edge HD 8 and 533 MC and MM Pro camera. Now the combination of these two gives me a desirable field of view to go after a wide range of galaxies and galaxy cluster targets. Though I have taken some good images with this setup, I have wondered if this setup is actually optimal for my style of astrophotography, and what I found was there is more room for improvement to capture more detail in those small galaxies. The targets that I go after are often very small, so extracting as much detail as possible is key. And I always thought to get more detail, I can just climb the aperture ladder and gain more resolution and detail in my image. For my first video, I want to present in a very simple format, taking example of my equipment to explain all the factors that affect resolution in an image and what other factors can we control to optimize the image. So does more aperture means more detail? You see, aperture is not the only factor affecting resolution, there is more to it. So let's dive into it. So first, let's go through few key parameters which will help in defining resolution or detail. Now I promise I will not bore you by bringing in complicated formula or equations, but we will just try to understand how it affects resolution and what parameters of our equipment control it. So first is Dawes limit and Rayleigh limit. These parameter defines resolution as a function of telescope's aperture only. As you see in the graphic, as aperture increases, so does resolution or resolving power of the telescope. Now keep in mind, resolution for our deep space astrophotography is defined in arc seconds. So when I say resolution improves, that means the number in arc seconds becomes smaller and smaller, thus we can see more detail. Now, if we visually want to understand the difference between Dawes and Rayleigh, Dawes is a more optimistic approach. As per Dawes, as soon as you are able to make out that it is possibly not a single star, it calls it good. But Rayleigh limit is a more conservative approach and demands clear separation between the two stars. Thus, Rayleigh limit will always be a larger number compared to Dawes. But the important thing for us to remember, it is a function of the telescope aperture only and plays an important role for observing. But in astrophotography, we use our camera sensor to see, and its resolution power is a property of its pixel size. So smaller the pixels means more detail you can resolve. Of course, smaller pixel will mean less light gathering, but we take long exposures in astrophotography, and here let's just keep it simple and focus on resolution only. Now, when we combine both, the resolution of the imaging train is a function of the telescope focal length and pixel size, and is called as the image scale. This is also called sampling, and we will get to another important criteria called Nyquist sampling in a bit. Now, in an ideal scenario, or say if we were to image from space, the best resolution you could resolve would be as given by the image scale, but we are limited by several factors, and number one is the atmospheric seeing. Now, all the parameters we will discuss are expressed in arc seconds, so it is easier to understand. Second limiting factor is the mount's tracking capability, expressed as RMS error in arc seconds as well. Now, when your seeing is not good, or your mount does not track well, or its tracking error is high, in such scenarios, taking longer exposures can further degrade the image detail. Good focusing or collimation is also a critical factor that needs to be given topmost priority to optimize resolution in our image. So you can see it's not just the aperture, but the camera pixel size, focal length, seeing condition, mounts tracking error, focus or collimation, and long exposure all play a key role in the final resolution of the image. Now let's take a look at my imaging setup. My telescope of choice is the Celestron Edge HD8 along with the 0.7x reducer. I use both the 533MC and MM Pro cameras. My image train is mounted on this beautiful ZWO AM5N. For guiding, I use the ZWO OAG along with the ASI 220mm mini camera. All of this is controlled with the amazing and tiny ZWO ASI Air Mini. I love all ZWO products. I think they provide an affordable and approachable solution to amateur and experienced astrophotographers alike. You can see these are the specs of my equipment, and the final resolution of my image train is 0.55 arc seconds per pixel. I get amazing tracking with the ZWO AM5N, and my RMS error is between 0.3 to 0.6. Let's use 0.5 arc seconds to keep it simple. Now the elephant in the room for my area is the seeing, which is generally between 2 to 3 arc seconds. I sometimes get sub 2 arc seconds, but to keep it simple, let's use 2.5 arc second. If the seeing gets worse than 3, I usually don't image. Now you can see what seeing does. Let's assume a star having an actual diameter of 0.5 arc second. Now with seeing and combine it with long exposure, I will effectively see the star appear bloated with a diameter roughly equal to the seeing, which now make it measure roughly 2.5 arc second. Now this has already put a big dent in our resolution, but this is what we get. Now there are methods like lucky imaging to recover some resolution, or what is called beat the seeing, but I usually image around 2 to 4 minutes long exposure length and have to take what the seeing gives me. Now let us shift our attention to the image scale. Like I said, this is also called sampling, and here let's cover another important criteria called the Nyquist sampling rate. Now, according to Nyquist, let's say you have a double star system with end-to-end distance of x arc seconds. Let's assume they are equally spaced and of same size. Now, to see this double star clearly, we need at least 3 pixels. 1 pixel each for the star and 1 for the separation between them. So we need 3 times faster sampling to resolve all detail. As per Nyquist, minimum is at least 2 times faster sampling. Now, what does this mean to us? Well, keeping it simple, we know the smallest resolution we get is now governed by seeing, so outsampling needs to be 2 to 3 times faster than the seeing. Putting the numbers, ideally my image scale should be between 0.83 to 1.25, but you can see my setup gives me even better at 0.55. It just means I am oversampling. Now oversampling is not a bad thing, and I have a sturdy mount like the AM5N, which tracks at 0.5 arc seconds or better for me to facilitate this oversampling rate. But the real question is this oversampling of any use, or using an imaging setup with higher image scale, like by using a smaller aperture and smaller pixel size, would be a better option. For now, let's see visually what result I get from my Edge HD 8-inch and ZWO 533 camera. For my resolution test, I pointed my telescope towards some double star system in different constellations. As you can see, I choose double stars with separation ranging from less than my seeing to 4.8 arc seconds of separation between them. I set my camera gain to 0. I did this to try not oversaturating my pixel, or in other words, use the entire full well capacity of my camera. I took 0.1 second and 5 second exposure. Now this is too short of an exposure length, and I usually image at 2 to 4 minutes of exposure length, but I want to see what is my image train's capability. Can I beat my seeing at 0.1 second, and what happens when I go just 5 seconds? Before I share my results, I want to show you some of my settings. Top right is the detect star feature. The star size is converted to arc seconds and is a good representation of my seeing. You can see my focus with the ZWO-F. Now, I am not very happy with how this EF works on SCT. My EF works wonderfully on rack and pinion type focuser on my refractors, but I see it struggle on my Edge HD. My collimation, doesn't look perfect, but a good representation of what I image with most nights. My tracking error on bottom right from the AM5N is doing great with RMS error of sub 0.4 arc seconds. Now let's see my result. Well, very interesting. At 0.1 second for the Alresha double star with 1.8 arc second of separation, there is perhaps a little hint of a double star, or at least DAWs would say so, but the others look better. As expected, the resolution improved when the separation increased. This mainly confirms what we covered so far. I can at least resolve what my seeing allows, and the best I can resolve is limited by my location seeing. Now, what happens at 5 seconds? I think the culprit here is focus and collimation. Another factor might be that since these are very bright objects, my full well capacity is met and my pixels get saturated. Here I definitely need sharp focus and good optics, meaning optics with tighter spot diagram. I will cover spot diagrams in a future video. Now, I am disappointed a bit with this result, but at the same time, this was informative and gives me ideas to try to make my setup more robust in capturing all the details in my images. I will definitely work on getting my collimation dialed in and maybe improve my focus, maybe with the PrimaLuz Labs Esato focuser. Now, I also want to try imaging double stars with up to 10 arc seconds separation and try out longer exposure, maybe 30 seconds or up to a minute. I will definitely compile and share the results in my next video. Okay, to sum it all, if I use a simple root mean square proportionality or forget the root mean square function, you can see the final resolution is dependent on seeing, aperture, mounts, capability, the camera pixel size, and somewhere integrated in the seeing will also be focus, collimation, and exposure length. Well, I hope my first YouTube video was at least somewhat informative and gave you an idea of what makes or breaks resolution in astrophotography. I have used my setup to capture some decent images of galaxies and nebulas, but using this information for future, I am interested in trying some different approaches and see if it can yield me better results. Specifically, I am interested to explore smaller 5-inch refractors combined with smaller pixels like that of the new 585 MC Pro camera. I want to test telescopes with better spot diagrams and see if that helps with resolution, and importantly explore smaller exposure lengths and see how all these factors either combined together or tested separately affect the final resolution in my image. Thanks for sticking around until the end. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing and sharing it with others who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot, and I'm excited to bring you more informative videos and astro gear comparisons in the future. You can also support the channel by purchasing your astrophotography gear through the links in the description. It won't cost you anything extra. Until next time, this is Ancient Photon, and keep exploring the universe through your lens.